This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
Unusual.
You're going to jump out of an aircraft. Whereabouts are you doing it?
Old Sarum,
Which is...
near Salisbury.
Oh, right, OK. How come all the way down there?
It is the one and only that does nothing but tandem skydives for first jumpers. So the instructors have done at least 3,000 or more jumps.
So you've literally got the whole belt and braces approach.
Should have, yeah.
Tell us who you're raising money for.
We're raising money for the New Day Hospice Dove Cottage at Ridlington.
So what made you want to do this? Are you a frequent flyer? Do you have a fascination with the skies?
I have flown all over the world, but the main reason I want to do it is to give something back for all the good work they did for my husband 2 years ago when he had cancer. I felt I needed to give something back.
And how do you think it's going to feel when there you are up there, the door comes open, the instructor's stepping out, he's saying, right, come on, off we go.
Haven't thought a lot about it, to be quite honest, but I have already done. These days they go off the back of a boat, but I ran along the beach until I had enough air in.
Oh yes, I know what you mean, paragliding.
That's right.
So how can people support you and your quest? You know, you've been in the paper, you're here on the radio now. How can people get in touch with you?
They can go to Uppingham. If they're local to the bank, they can go online. We're on Facebook.
So it's any Rotary connection, basically.
Yes, but if older people who are not online can take checks into the Falcon Hotel in Uppingham, there are so many different ways that they can catch us.
And is there a particular amount you're looking to raise?
As much as possible. I would like to be over 1,000.
4 weeks to go. And
4 weeks today.
you know, if we get a clear sky, if we get light winds, if you're there up in the sky, just imagine how amazing that's going to be.
It's going to be lovely. When I fly, I always have to have the wing seat like a baby so I can see what's going on.
My name's Norman Porter. I'm the current president of Uppingham Rotary Club. And Anne is my dear wife.
You were saying 62 years together, and
we've been married 62 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 weeks' time, something quite incredible is going to...
She's going to have all my love behind her, and it's one of those things that I do hope comes out eventually after free fall for a happy landing.
When your wife was just talking about the fact that she's raising money for Dove Cottage, I honestly didn't think I'd be talking to you as well.
Well, I'm just a bystander in this one. The brave person is standing by me, and I think she's the best girl in the whole wide world.
Rutland Radio.
So, we book the weather, and most of the time at Uppingham in bloom, the sun always shines when the judges come round. Is this the first time the weather has been as grim as this?
This is absolutely the wettest tour that I've known. I haven't done them all, obviously. I've only been chair for the last couple of years, but actually running round on the day, organising things beforehand is usually done in the dry. I can't remember wetter days as we've had today. However, we've got round, and the judges obviously sound really appreciative of the effort that we put in, so we can only just have our fingers crossed and hope they dry out on the train because they are very soggy.
I'm Kate Dagnall, and I'm a national judge for the RHS Britain in Bloom campaign. We judge what we see, and the weather is the one thing that none of us can do anything about. And I think the enthusiasm that's been shown today by the Uppingham people, we've been out in the middle of a park and met two people who've been standing there waiting for us because we've been running late. We're disappointed for them because they love to show their town off in the sunshine because they know that's when it looks best. But from our point of view, as judges, it doesn't make any difference. We've had a wonderful morning. It's been a real pleasure to see Uppingham. and there's a great community spirit here. It's a way of life for them, and that's a wonderful thing to hear.
It is quite a partnership, isn't it, between the team that you have in Bloom, the school, and lots of other organisations as well, and that's growing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. We've had a lot more input this year. Sue and Tony Streeter, who are on the committee, have worked really hard this year with the sponsors, getting more businesses involved. The high street's looking amazing. All the businesses put their own floral displays out. So that's down to Sue and Tony going around doggedly, knocking on doors and asking very politely for them to do that. We also work with the Rotary, the WI. We've had our D.V. students this year, the volunteers, Town Council, and also Rutland County Council. I've just got to big them up this year. Mark Lauren, who's our liaison at Rutland County Council, has worked doggedly, just toing and froing with emails to him to say, this bit hasn't been done. Can you do this bit for me? So lots and lots of help from Rutland County Council. And then Uppingham School, who do all the planting of the displays for us in the town centre. And they don't just do the planting, they do lots of other help.
And out of all the Britain in Bloom entrants, there's only actually 80, and Uppingham's just one of a handful that actually could win the prize.
It is, yes. Uppingham is one of 5 small towns that are in the finals. I have to say that the prize is for the community because they're the ones that benefit, whatever medal they win. But the awards are at the end of October, so they will find out then.
And finally, could you just explain how Uppingham actually got through to Britain in Bloom?
Yes, Uppingham compete in the East Midlands region of Britain in Bloom. There are 17 regions, and each of those can put forward a certain number of entries to the national finals in the following year. So that is how Uppingham got to be competing against other small towns from Dorset, Northern Ireland, Scotland and other areas.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio podcast.
So who have I got with me?
I'm Eleanor. I'm Shola.
I'm Charlie.
And what are you guys doing?
We're a local NCS group and we're currently fundraising to create care packages for the homeless and help out the food banks in and around Oakham. So on Monday we have a sponsored bike ride around Rutland Water.
In pyjamas.
So it'll be a sight to see.
That'll be amusing.
Definitely. And for those who don't want to cycle, we also have things like Name the Teddy and Sweets in a Jar that you can join in with. We're having a raffle, which the prizes range from anything from a free sandwich to free manicures and things like that. And then tomorrow we'll be around Oakham Market with buckets asking for donations.
We'll also be selling the raffle tickets there as well.
The tickets are 20p per ticket or £1 a strip.
And where can people go? If they buy a ticket, then where can they find out if they've won?
Well, on next Thursday, us NCS people will meet, we'll pull out the prize and the thing, and on the back of the raffle ticket, they'd have to put name, phone number, so I can contact them, get in touch with them about an address and send them in the address, or deliver them or pick them up, whatever they find easiest.
Awesome.
We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page,
Yeah.
so if you want to follow those as well.
I think it's just NTS_fundraise.
Yeah.
And we've got a GoFundMe.
GoFundMe page.
So if you don't have the cash on you, you can also do it online.
Yeah.
Nice one. And can I just ask why you decided to get involved with NCS?
For me, it was because I was very closed off, and it was a way to get me out of the house doing things.
Yeah.
And I like helping the community too. And it's 4 weeks, and the last 2 weeks are all about helping people, whereas the first 2 weeks are building your confidence and
which it definitely did.
Yeah, and your independence and things like that. So I started, and I had 2 friends.
Now look at us.
Yeah. Now I have this amazing group of friends that we meet up every weekend. I'm never in the house anymore.
That was our biggest fear, not actually making it, because they was like, "Oh, you'll do it. Will we?" Yeah, we did.
And we're also from the same village, but
which
we
didn't know.
We didn't
even know that.
It's a really small village, and we didn't know each other.
So we've literally just met at this group, and then we found out that we're all in the same
now
village.
we'll never be at home again.
Yeah. We all have things to do now.
We now have a life.
Yeah.
Rutland Radio.
Right, my name is Lel Nichols, and I'm the Children and Youth Minister at Christchurch. And I've got Bear here, who's a 2-year-old Airedale, and he is our Bear Pause for Prayer dog, so he's our prayer dog that we have in church.
So he's the first prayer dog in Stamford, to my knowledge. Certainly.
Definitely the first one in Stamford, definitely the first one in Lincolnshire Diocese, and possibly the whole one in the country.
How did he come about?
It came to my mind, and I believe it was God-given, when I was out for a walk one day with Nicky, Reverend Nicky. We were walking and we were talking about my puppy and how cute he was, and that we couldn't walk down Stamford High Street without being interrupted because people are drawn to him because he's so attractive and cute. And I said, don't laugh, but what do you think about having a prayer dog? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, we do prayer walks. We walk around the parish and we pray for people in the community, and we see the mums and people going to work, and we sort of do little prayers as we go along. We don't necessarily tell those people, we just do them. And I said, how about we walk around with a dog, and then he will draw people to us, and we can tell them about the church, the services we offer, the support we can offer. And if they want a prayer, then they can stroke the dog, and every pat is a prayer. Because it says in the Bible, in Philippians, I think, that if you've got any problems, any petitions, you give them to God whenever and however they appear. So why not use a dog? So he's just an engagement. He builds a bridge between what people expect of the church and what you can actually manage, because people assume that a prayer has to be on a Sunday morning, stiff knees, bent neck, eyes closed, really boring, and actually it isn't. Prayer can be in any way, shape or form, whether you're a believer or not.
So does he actually attend the services then?
He does. He comes every Wednesday, which is when we normally do our prayer walk. Then he stays for the day centre, where we have the more mature generation, and they stay for lunch and do some activities. And I take him in and he always sees them, and they love to see him, because a lot of them would say, oh, I used to have a dog, but I'm not allowed one where I live now, or I'm, too old or whatever. And they love to make a fuss of him. Once a month we have communion with the older generation on Sunday mornings. Now and again, probably 2 times a month, he comes into the service and he stays with the children and comes up for communion. Well, I go up for communion, he just happens to accompany me. And he's very well received, very well behaved. That's him.
There he is. First word on the radio.
Balloons. And he loves it. He's a very social dog. He's only 2. He's quite young. Ultimately, I want him to be a pat dog, where he goes into schools and children read to him. So it's doing him a big favour in social skills, and he's giving a lot out as well.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
It's Rutland Radio at breakfast time. I'm Rob Pisani. If you work, how often are you thanked for your work? For something maybe that you do every day, for something where you go the extra mile. It makes us feel great, doesn't it? And, there's various theories, psychological theories about, does it maybe help us give more and that sort of stuff. To tell us more, Dr. Becky Spellman, psychologist, and also Dr. Hilary Jones. Well, first of all, thank you for talking to us at Rutland Radio.
No, thank you for having us, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Secondly, just tell us how important it is.
I think it's obvious to assume and to know that people do need praise and validation and the thank yous, but it's also very easy to assume that the pay rises and the promotions are actually going to be much more important. However, the research by Optical Express found that the words thank you were just as important as the promotion and pay rises.
So what about if people aren't thanked? Does this actually mean that they end up kind of being crushed at work, thinking, oh, what am I doing this for?
I think that's absolutely true. If you're thanked, your productivity increases, your loyalty to the boss and the employers increases, and you feel more motivated and you feel better in yourself. When we look at areas where morale is low, it's often because people don't feel rewarded for what they do. Let's look at the health service, for example, at the moment, where we have a huge recruitment crisis. We can't get appointments with GPs because there aren't enough of them. Nurses are leaving in droves, along with midwives, because they simply can't afford to live. A lot of them going to food banks. This is a problem. People love the institution of the NHS, and many people say thank you very much for what you did for me, for those people who work with the NHS. But it's not easy when you're ill and you've got other priorities. Not everyone has the time or thinks about saying thank you to the staff that look after them. And that's why we really welcome this initiative from Optical Express to provide £1 million worth of free treatment for laser eye surgery and other eye procedures to those frontline staff, people like firefighters, police officers, paramedics, and especially nurses who've done such a great job. This initiative is for them.
So should we, as people who use their service at some point, actually be filling out a form somewhere and saying, they've done something really great for me?
Yeah, did you know in the NHS, in most hospitals, there is a complaints department. But if you want to say thank you, your letter has to go to the complaints department because there is no praise department. How mad is that?
Absolutely. I mean, just speaking of our experience, very recently we had a baby, 4 months old little baby girl that a lot of our listeners know about because I talk about it far too much. We had an amazing experience in the hospital and wrote a letter and named everyone we thought, almost everyone I think we knew by name by the end of the process. And, that made a massive difference to them. And actually we do know that the midwife who actually helped deliver the baby, she then got back in touch with us and said, I don't think I'm supposed to, but your letter got to the right place.
That's great. And that would bring some midwives and nurses to tears, just being thanked for the job that they love. And if we want people to stay in love with their jobs, we need to say, not just you could have done that better occasionally, but you do a fantastic job almost all the time. Thank you so much.
Rutland Radio.
Richard Foster, I'm a councillor on Rutland County Council. I'm the lead member for Children's Services, but specifically my portfolio is safeguarding children and young people.
Now, people around Oakham will be able to see a rather large yellow crane here this week, which is lowering in the new building here at the Children's Centre. What exactly has been happening over the last few months?
Well, since the decision was made to move from the Catmose campus, which was a good facility and one that was being successful, but it wasn't central, it wasn't as accessible as it could be. And with the expansion of the Catmose school intake, it was pretty clear that it would benefit both them and the council to think about a new location for the Children's Centre. At the same time, it was very evident, after over 40 years of very strong use, and not much actually, frankly, had been done in keeping it in good order, and therefore it was very clear that it needed a colossal refurbishment. So it became pretty clear that one option would be, whilst refurbishing the library, why not use part of it for the Children's Centre, or indeed expand the size available to the Children's Centre, particularly in view of the very large and burgeoning population of Oakham and indeed Rutland, with all the new housing that is going up. We visited 3 locations in Northamptonshire where libraries and children's centres had been very successfully co-located, that actually this was a model that we could use here in Oakham, and that's what we've done.
Can we talk about the money spent and whereabouts that's come from?
OK. Well, £300,000 was a grant from the Department for Education for the Children's Centre. Therefore, we had to spend that. The rest, actually, because we have a statutory duty to provide Children's Centre, in the old days it used to be called Sure Start, as most people will remember, the whole project was budgeted for, and initially, and I've got to be frank here, the estimates were around 600,000, but not 700,000. But having done all the estimates and really thought very hard about what kind of facility we wanted, not just now, but in the future for the increasing population and the various uses we could put the Children's Centre, the costs have sadly risen to just under £1 million. That said, we're all confident, and we've thought about this a lot, that it is money very well spent, and what's more, we're getting very good value for money because the quality of the build that our modular buildings are going to give us, and the accessibility and the range of activities that we're going to be able to achieve within a much larger footprint, a third again the size of the Catmose Children's Centre, it means that we are really going to provide a fantastic facility for the families of Rutland.
So what sort of things actually will be there?
Well, for the first time, we'll be able to have an outside play area for the children, something which was impossible at Catmose. There will still be the private consulting rooms for midwives talking to mums-to-be, antenatal work. There will be places for the district nurses to do the weighing. There will be times when we're consulting on maybe children who have a few problems with speech. There'll be a large play area and a mucky, wet play area inside where the kids can really get stuck in and get as muddy and wet as they like. We've got an indoor buggy park as well. But of course, now it's a central location, and they can come in by bus, particularly in terms of the military families. Our families at Kendrew and at St George's Barracks. We're having a new battalion in, Prince of Wales's Royal Regiment. Those families will be new to the area. They will have one place to come and find out about what's going on, very adjacent to the council offices to sort out things like benefits and council tax and talk to the police if they need to, all happening in a very confined area and very easily accessible.
So you're clearly very pleased with the way that things have gone here. When will it open?
Well, the library will actually be open for business on the Monday the 4th of September, and we anticipate the Children's Centre to be open about a month later. So early October is what we're aiming for at the moment.
There was some concern about noise and access out of hours from those particularly who were on Stamford Road, who made their views very well known at the council meeting at the time. What would you say to those people?
Well, the only noise that will come will be for youngsters in the outside play area. And if that is offensive to some people, I'm very sorry about that. But that is all we're talking about. It is a library, and by the definition, there shh is what's what, so that function won't change. The vast majority of the activities will be inside the double-glazed Children's Centre. But yes, there will be some noise from the little ones playing outside in the outside play area when the weather's nice, not like today.
And do you think, in a way, it safeguards the future of the library as well? I mean, we often hear how libraries, and those sort of buildings are under threat. You said it's well used anyway here in Oakham.
Absolutely. The very huge footfall, and the fact that the whole building now, because it is one building, although there will be, of course, a secure airlock, if you like, between where the children are and the general public, for every reason. But the fact that what we've got now is a much larger and much more flexible building. The flexibility of its use is another very, very good thing, and something that for the sustainability of the project we're very pleased with.
And effectively, as well as actually giving the library a facelift, all you've effectively done is converted a car park area. There's no other kind of impingement of the environment, really.
Absolutely not. No, and in fact, I think you've just seen the first module in. It is a very sympathetic addition to the existing building. And I think already before it's all there, it makes the whole area look a lot nicer than it was. So yes, I'm an enthusiast, but I can't see any disadvantages at all to what we're talking about. It is an attractive building that's going to fulfil a very important purpose for the whole of Rutland's children and their families.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
Richard Jones.
And how many times have you done Burley then?
I've probably had 5 attempts, I think, maybe. I've had 2 completions in the past.
And why do you do Burley?
Why do I do Burley? Well, Burley for us, it's like the top competition. It's 4-star, but it's not just a 4-star. It's a big 4-star, and I'm kind of a local boy, South London, went to school in Stamford, so Burley is at the pinnacle of what I want to achieve.
And how did you get into riding then?
Rode when I was a child and just carried on really, and just enjoy riding and training horses.
And what would you say your goal would be this year at Burley?
This year, I'd like to think we're capable of a top 20 finish.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, sorry, can I just ask you one more question? What do you think's the hardest part of the course?
Well, I haven't seen the course, but normally the hardest part of Burley is no single jump or single effort. It's the combined effort of the fences, and the kind of topography here is it's very strenuous for the horse and rider, and that makes it the kind of the most challenging factor.
The teamwork then.
Yeah, the teamwork, quite, yeah.
And who are you riding this year?
Alfie's Clover, 10-year-old grey gelding owned by Dinah Saunders from Tilton-on-the-Hill and Sandra Martin from Hambleton.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Rutland Radio.
Are you excited about this year?
I'm always excited about Land Rover Burley Horse Trials. Once you lose that excitement, it's time you actually hung up your boots. It's a great event. There's so much going on this year. Really, really exciting. Much looking forward to it.
Got any surprises this year?
There's a lot going on. We've got very good entry this year. We've made some changes to the cross-country course. We've also got a lot for families. We've got the Tailwaggers Dog Club. We've got the field doing a gun dog display in the main arena. On Sunday, we've got a parade of donkeys celebrating the Donkey Breed Society Golden Jubilee. Lots going on. Wonderful shopping. Great food walk. Face painting for the children. So something for everybody.
And there's is it the Musto Mare?
Yes, we've got the Mustow Mare. Mustow are sponsoring an equestrian simulator, and we prepared some software taking in 6 or so of our most, I can say, frightening cross-country fences, and people will sit on this artificial horse and experience what it's really like to ride around Burghley Horse Trials. One of my girls in the office actually trialled it a couple of weeks ago and said it was really quite frightening, but it's very, very safe, and I think it'll create a huge amount of interest.
So do people just turn up on the day and maybe do they put their name down to have a go? Or?
Yes, they will. It's going to be based down near the lake, and they will turn up, and I think they do have to put themselves in because I think it'll be very, very popular.
And for someone who's coming to Burghley for the very first time, what are the highlights, the must-see bits and bobs that are going on for them?
I think definitely the shopping. A lot of people do their Christmas shopping at the event. There's a huge array, very eclectic mix of shops, and something for absolutely everybody. The food walk at Burghley is renowned. We also have some Royal Crafts pavilions and craft tents. The catering's great. We've got a lovely Port Roger Champagne Lodge, which is very, very nice, overlooking the collecting ring. There will be also World Horse Welfare, our chosen charity this year, bringing their little Shetland pony as an ambassador, and I think she'll be very, very popular. And on Sunday, we have Sophie Countess of Wessex is also visiting us, so I think that'll be great excitement for everybody.
Lovely, well, looking forward to it. Not long now, isn't it? It's only a couple of weeks, isn't it now?
It's frightening how quickly the days are passing at this time of year, but yes, all we want now is some good weather.
Lovely, thank you very much for talking to me today.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Captain Mark Phillips, you're the course designer, and you've started designing it back in 1989?
That was my first year, yeah.
Your first year,
That's a long time ago now.
And you've done all the way through to 2000, apart from 97, and also then 2005 onwards. So do you get excited about designing the course every year?
I mean, I design courses all around the world, so it's sort of what I do. Mm-hmm. But Burghley is absolutely the biggest, and I think most riders would tell you that it's the biggest 4-star in the world. Am I nervous? Yes. But I'm actually quite excited about this year's course. I think it's one of the more clever courses that I've done, and that riders got a lot of places where they've got to choose where they're going to go. The quicker, more difficult option down one way, or take a few more steps and take a little bit longer to do the easier side. And the secret of that is, know your horse, do what you know you can do, don't hope you're going to get lucky.
So are there some surprises?
I don't know if they're going to be expecting them, but they're sure are going to get some. It's the same track as last year, but the course is very, very different in terms of the technical questions it asks, and in fact it's completely different. But the first 4 fences are the same, and the last 2 fences are the same. But everything in between, as I say, is a very different picture. Because the early fences, you've got to give the horses a chance to get warmed up and get going, and hopefully settle some of the rider nerves. And at the end of the course, when horses are maybe getting tired, you want them just to get home with a nice smile on their face. So that's not the place to be asking big questions.
And what inspired the course this year?
Oh, don't ask me that. I can't do it off a piece of paper. I guess it all started with the last year's competition, because some of the combinations worked really well. I thought, well, we'll never all keep that, and some didn't look so good, so they were the first ones to go on the rubbish pile. And then we take it from there, and really I let the ground talk to me. So, what would work well on that piece of ground? And that's how I try to get to the end result, but also thinking of the horse, so that the horse has the chance to flow through it and not get pulled about by the rider.
And finally, what do you think to this beautiful area in Stamford and Rutland?
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? Well, particularly when the sun's shining today. It wasn't so pretty yesterday in the rain.
Do you manage to get here often?
I come before Christmas for 2, maybe 3 days, just sort of start making the plan, or the initial plan for the following year. And then they start building here at the end of May, beginning of June. And then I'm up here once or twice a month, sort of end of May, June, July, August, and sometimes 3 times a month, but normally sort of once a fortnight, because you come and you make some adjustments, but then obviously the boys need time to work on those changes and because a course of this magnitude, it sort of evolves and it grows, and if you make one change, that has a knock-on effect elsewhere, and so it's it's an evolving process, which obviously takes time to build and adjust.
Rutland Radio's Best Bits on the podcast.
I'm Sarah Chambers. I live in Haringworth. I am the village archivist and historian.
And this weekend is yet another chance for people to celebrate steam over the viaduct.
That's correct. The exhibition will be available in the village hall for people to come and look at. It's something that I've been developing for the last 17 years. When we first moved to the village, there was very little information about the viaduct, and I decided to put together a small exhibition at that point, and it's expanded from there.
If you could give us a brief history of the viaduct, how it was built, how many people were involved, and how long it took.
The first brick was laid in March 1876, and the whole structure was finished in 1878. It was built by navvies. Around about 3,000 strangers came to the village and surrounding areas with their families, lived in wooden huts. Some of them are still around. There's one at Gretton still available to be seen in derelict state, but it's still there.
And it is such a breathtaking sight, isn't it, as you descend into the Welland Valley and you see this huge structure which is, was the longest of its kind at the time.
Yes, it's 1,275 yards long, has 82 arches, of which 42-foot span, and in places 70-foot high. A quite incredible structure.
And there isn't really anything quite like it anywhere. I mean, there are other viaducts, but this is quite individual, isn't it?
Yes, this is the largest brick-built viaduct, I understand, in Europe.
That is quite a feat, really, isn't it? And as you say, 2 years, 3,000 people, and it's still admired and celebrated. So did this come in with the advent of the railways going everywhere? They basically needed to join towns together. Was that the reason for it?
This was going to be a shortcut, as far as I understand, between Kettering and Manton to save money on the amount of coal burning on the steam trains. But I have turned up that we were actually due to have a canal in 1814. I have plans, which will be seen in the exhibition, showing the route of a proposed canal linking Market Harborough with Stamford.
The canal never obviously was built.
No, they went through the same plans again in 1841, and then finally they decided on this in 1876. I suppose that's the age of the steam, and it seemed more modern to do that rather than build canals, and thank heavens they did.
Now, as well as the exhibition, there's new permanent signs that are going to actually celebrate the heritage of the viaduct. Tell us how they came about.
When I first moved to the village 17 years ago, there was very little around about the Welland Viaduct. Certainly there were books and there were details about how they built it, but nothing that you could look at for short reference. So it's taken a long time, but we've now had Amco Rail, and particularly Sean Trickett, who's the project manager at Amco Rail, was going to do an open day on the viaduct, but this fell through. And I thought it was an ideal opportunity to design a board in conjunction with a neighbour of mine, Richard Nixon of Harcourt Communications, who's a graphic designer in our village, and approach them whether they would finance it and install it in 2 places on the viaduct.
Rutland Radio.
Now, do you recognise this sound? It sounds familiar. It's like popcorn or popping candy, or Rice Krispies, but it's none of them. It's actually coffee. So I got dressed up in a denim apron, had a hairnet on, and I became the 3rd chimp for the morning at 2 Chimps Coffee in Oakham.
We've been roasting Morning Glory. So we've started off with our green beans, which are actually green and they're raw. And what we've done is we've measured them for moisture and density, and we've recorded all this down on a roast log sheet so we can keep an eye on how the beans are doing when we're storing them here. We've then put them into our bright and shiny roaster. We've put the recipe on them that we built last time we roasted, and we've roasted them and we've packed them, and Lydia's been very helpful with the whole process, and they're sitting on the shelf ready to go out to all the lovely people.
And what I like about this as well is that you hand roast it. So, well, I suppose you don't roast it by hand, but it goes into the machine, but you do it all by hand, and you have something called sensory milestones.
Yeah, exactly. So with the roasting machines, there's so many different roasting machines you can get, and you can get automated machines that will do everything for you. We chose not to do that, so we've got a roaster that is manually looked after. Although we follow the same recipe each time, we can check that the beans are reacting as they were last time. So by keeping an eye on our sensory milestones, we can make sure that the roast is doing as it should do. So the sensory milestones are how the beans will react to the heat at different points during the roast. So you've got your sensory milestones of smelling, which is where the beans will start to smell like, firstly, mown grass, then they'll smell like hay, and they'll smell like baking bread, and then they go into a chemical reaction of first crack.
And that's what makes this crackling noise. Kind of hard to hear, but it's first crack when they can tell that the coffee beans, they've hit the beginning of the light roast. Now, the way that the beans are roasted, it affects the flavour as well. You can get citrusy flavours, chocolatey flavours, not just simple coffee, and I'll tell you more about that after Diva Queen, Miss Tina Turner and Ollie Murph. So when I drink coffee, it tastes of coffee to me. Simple coffee, maybe a little bit biscuity if my cookie is falling in and disintegrated all in the bottom. Oh, I hate it when that happens. It's the worst, isn't it? When you get your biscuit dunked in your tea or your coffee and it just falls. But I didn't actually realise you could get naturally citrusy, lemony and chocolatey flavoured coffee until I popped to Two Chimps.
So the roast can bring out the different flavours in the beans. So if a bean is naturally quite acidic, then we can pick the roast profile that's going to bring out the acidic notes in the coffee, whereas some beans won't have much natural acidity, and therefore if you roast them to bring out that acidity, they won't taste as nice because they weren't naturally supposed to be acidic. So if we want a coffee to be like an espresso coffee where it's quite rich and sweet and syrupy, we want maybe the roast to go on a little bit longer so those sugars really caramelise and you get that lovely, almost chocolatey sweet flavour.
Do you reckon hand roasting is more reliable to get the consistent taste in your coffees?
I think it means it's more exact, and you're making sure that your sensory milestones are still spot on, I suppose, whereas with automated roasting sometimes you can lose that.
Awesome. And is it just really nice to come in here and just smell coffee all day long?
The smell is definitely good. Yeah, we're always buzzing after a day's roasting, because after we've roasted we make sure that we taste the coffee. So we cup the coffee and we also brew it in the particular method that it's designed for, so we can make sure that it's consistent. So when we've been roasting all day and tasting all day, we go home literally with our head in the clouds, completely off on caffeine, so we have to switch to decaf for the evening.
It did smell really good in there. You know, not too overpowering, but just a subtle hint of coffee. I reckon they should bring out an air freshener, getting the smell of coffee in the morning, but without the caffeine. If you do Two Chimps, then I want to share in it. So thank you again to Two Chimps Coffee for helping me tick off another task on my bucket list. And if you have any challenges, let me know. studio@rutlandradio.co.uk and just leave it to Lydia.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk. This is a download from Rutland Radio.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Rutland Radio podcast from rutlandradio.co.uk. This is where you can hear the best bits from the last week.
My name's Neil Ewart and I'm today's train manager.
What an amazing job this is, to be a manager of a train like this. How many actually do you work? Is this very much a part-time thing?
No, it's all voluntary. Vintage Trains operates out of Tyseley in Birmingham. As you see, we own a rake of coaches and several engines, and we run similar trips to this many times in the year. And one or two people are, like the driver and so on, they are professionals and have to be. But the basic running of the train, all the stewarding and so on, all done by volunteers.
Just to keep steam, well, I suppose primarily steam alive. I mean, it's very unusual, isn't it, to have steam at both ends?
Oh, well, it is on this line because just because of the nature of the trip. But normally we have one engine on and we go to many diverse places. I mean, as far away as Carlisle, right down to the West Country. And the idea is to keep steam alive on the main line. We know there's many wonderful heritage railways around, going up and down branch lines and so on. But what we try to do is recreate steam trains as they were in the 1950s and 60s.
And here on this particular section of the line,
the incredible feat of the viaduct. 2 years, 3,000 people, and there's not an awful lot of even passenger trains that use it these days, but to have a steam train on there is very rare, and I know there's a lot of excitement locally about that.
Yeah, well, we noticed when we were on the viaduct the number of locals had set out picnic tables and so on to watch it. It's a curious thing that the sort of fascination and love of steam trains passes through every generation. So you see, even now, tiny children absolutely loving them, and hence the incredible popularity of Thomas the Tank Engine after all these years. It's just timeless, the whole thing. And question one asks when we're travelling around, why does everybody want to wave at a steam train? Because it's friendly, and there's something about it. It's alive, and once you like all the lads on the train hooked, you've had it for life.
So about how many people actually are volunteering on the train today?
There's about 20 to 30, because a lot of the lads who, with all the dirty overalls on, who are actually helping to service the engine, they're all volunteers as well.
Yes, I mean, we saw them coming through, and really sooty faces.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't take long to get that.
I mean, part of the pleasure is to get covered in muck. Yeah, yeah, and even the people manning our buffet here, they're volunteers as well, and they come out for the day. It's a long day, it's tiring, but yeah, it's great fun, and we really do meet some great people as passengers as well. Many of them come on almost every train, so they almost become old friends, really. And we try to make it as much as we can a fun day out, with the pleasure of having a very well-oiled steam engine on the front. And sometimes we get up to well over 70 miles an hour on some of the trips. It's a great thrill for a lot of people, and you can't experience it very often in this country. But the movement as such, to have these engines going and the heritage rails, is growing at a tremendous rate. It obviously comes down to money and also attracting volunteers. One has to say the average volunteer for anything, doesn't matter what it is, tends to be rather elderly, because we geriatrics have time on our hands, and sort of. But what we'd love to do is to attract a much younger element to come and have a go. And where, dare I say, we class younger as middle-aged. People are experienced and got a certain sense of responsibility, but like a bit of fun. Yeah, they're made very welcome. Yeah.
What was your job then before this?
Oh, well, I spent 40 years training guide dogs. So I worked for a charity. I trained guide dogs and bred them, did goodness knows what else. So I was very well used to the concept of volunteering and dealing with volunteers. So, if you like, I understand the ethos of the whole thing. And I always loved trains, and I always said, as soon as I retire, that's what I'm going to start doing. And I live in Levington Spa in Warwickshire. Vintage trains are based just outside Solihull, short distance. Looked into it, it suited me, so for 6 years, every other weekend or so, I've been coming on the trains. And recently promoted, if that's what you could call it, to train manager on about half of them. And learn as I go along. And it's great. Recommend it to anybody.
Thank you so much for joining us on Rutland Radio.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
For me, I've reported on many a steam train that's come past our building.
Yeah.
In fact, in Oakham, we're based right by the railway line, the studios, and we feel the trains. Most of them obviously, are diesel powered.
Yeah.
But actually, to be on one and for it to stop on an iconic structure like we did today is so special.
And you look at that structure and you have to use a bit of imagination. Those guys that built it all those years ago with very little what we call modern tools, no health and safety, all done on paper, but they did it. Probably a darn sight quicker than we do many a project nowadays, but no, all credit to them and their memory. They were quite remarkable. And the guys who built these engines and whatever. And that's all part of it. It's our history. And the skills of all those engineers and so on. It's all part of it, yeah.
Are these particularly vintage engines that are either end?
Yeah, they're the one on one end. Well, they're both Great Western engines. One's what we call a Great Western pannier tank, and the other one is quite a famous class of engine, the Great Western Castle, even though it's called Earl of Mount Edgecombe. The pannier tanks were mainly used on the goods trains and branch line trains, but the Earl of Mount Edgecombe, she was on express travel, particularly to the West Country, and in fact at Tyseley we've got 2 other members of the same class under renovation, and one any minute now will be out on the main line after a lot of expense and time, but we're nearly there.
Highlights from the past 7 days, the Rutland Radio Podcast.
Are you excited about this year?
I'm always excited about Land Rover Burley Horse Trials. Once you lose that excitement, it's time you actually hung up your boots. It's a great event. There's so much going on this year. Really, really exciting. Much looking forward to it.
Got any surprises this year?
There's a lot going on. We've got very good entry this year. We've made some changes to the cross-country course. We've also got a lot for families. We've got the Tailwaggers Dog Club. We've got the field doing a gun dog display in the main arena. On Sunday, we've got a parade of donkeys celebrating the Donkey Breed Society Golden Jubilee. Lots going on. Wonderful shopping. Great food walk. Face painting for the children. So something for everybody.
And there's is it the Musto Mare?
Yes, we've got the Musto Mare. Musto are sponsoring an equestrian simulator, and we prepared some software taking in 6 or so of our most, I can say, frightening cross-country fences, and people will sit on this artificial horse and experience what it's really like to ride around Burley Horse Trials. One of my girls in the office actually trialled it a couple of weeks ago and said it was really quite frightening, but it's very, very safe, and I think it'll create a huge amount of interest.
So do people just turn up on the day and maybe do they put their name down to have a go? Or?
Yes, they will. It's going to be based down near the lake, and they will turn up, and I think they do have to book themselves in because I think it'll be very, very popular.
And for someone who's coming to Burley for the very first time, what are the highlights, the must-see bits and bobs that are going on for them?
I think definitely the shopping. A lot of people do their Christmas shopping at the event. There's a huge array, very eclectic mix of shops, and something for absolutely everybody. The food walk at Burley is renowned. We also have some Royal Crafts pavilions and craft tents. The catering's great. We've got a lovely Port Roger Champagne Lodge, which is very, very nice, overlooking the collecting ring. There will be also World Horse Welfare, our chosen charity this year, bringing their little Shetland pony as an ambassador, and I think she'll be very, very popular. And on Sunday, we have Sophie Countess of Wessex that's also visiting us, so I think that'll be great excitement for us.
Rutland Radio.
They did a sponsored bike ride around Rutland Water. They did the whole 26 miles, and then the other half of the group stayed up near one of the cafes. They had a lucky dip going on, guess the name of the teddy, and they've had a raffle that's been ongoing for the whole week as well. They've sold no end of raffle tickets, and a lot of Oakham actually has chipped in. A lot of local businesses have donated a lot of prizes for it as well, which is good. And then on top of that, they did a bake sale on Wednesday morning at the market, and loads of people got involved in that from the community as well, so that was nice.
Just tell me how proud you are of your team, because how much have they raised?
Very, very, very proud. Very proud, actually. Not only for the amount of money that they've raised, which I don't know the exact number, but I think it's around the £800 mark. Not only for that and for the effort that they've put in, but just how they've all kind of come out of their shells over the 4 weeks, and they've all made friends. And they've all gelled, and it's just been really nice to watch them get involved. And it's been nice as well for the community to respond to what they're doing, because if they'd done a bake sale and no one had got involved, then it would have been a bit negative. But it's been really nice to see the two kind of interact. It's been really good. I'm very proud.
David Clark, you're the chairman of the food bank in Oakham?
Yes, that's right.
Isn't this great? Youngsters raising so much and bringing so much to the food bank.
It is absolutely tremendous. We rely on 2 things really to run the food bank. One is donations from the public, and the other is volunteers. And of course, you know, the place is run by volunteers. But that's typically adults, older people. And to get the young people involved with this is, well, it's so encouraging for us, actually. It's fantastic.
And as a food bank, you're still in desperate need of donations, yes?
Oh, we're an ongoing need for donations, you know, throughout the year. We have harvest festival coming up, which is always a time when people are very generous towards us. But yes, we need ongoing flow of food to give out, and indeed just for premises, we need some cash as well to pay for those outgoings. So, this is a tremendous effort, and we're very grateful.
Rutland Radio's best bits on the podcast.
Now tell me about Parkrun.
So Parkrun is a free weekly timed event every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock all over the country. So there's so many now that I can't even give a figure on it. There's hundreds all over the UK, and the one closest to us is Rutland Water Parkrun. So if you turn up just before 9 on a Saturday morning, you can get involved. You have to first register on the website, so that will give you a barcode which you print out and take with you. So you run around with this barcode. There's people with all shapes and sizes, all ages. You see little tots running right up to people in their 70s, even 80s, maybe even 90s, but they didn't tell me their age. It's just a really great family atmosphere, and if you're new, they take you to one side and they tell you what the route is. There's loads of marshals who are really friendly, and they'll guide you through along the way and cheer for you along the way. If you can't run the whole 5k, it doesn't matter, you just walk. There's loads of people just walking around at the back, and you will never be last, because somebody from Parkrun will always walk with you, and they'll let you go through that finish tunnel first. So it's a really nice, supportive and friendly event, and it's completely free as well. The marshals give up their time for free, and everybody just turns up and runs, and then probably have a coffee afterwards. The barcode is there for when you finish, so you get a little tag at the finish, and then you take it with your barcode to be scanned, and that gives you your time. So on the website afterwards, you can see where you came, see how many parkruns you've done, because if you do a certain number, you are eligible to get a certain t-shirt with the number on, and you can see your time and see whether you've improved week on week. And the brilliant thing about there being loads of parkruns is that you could be a parkrun tourist as well. There's also one in Peterborough, which is really close by, and you can. We just did one in Wales the other day. We were on holiday in Wales, and we were there on a Saturday, so we just turned up at their local parkrun and met a load of other like-minded people. So there's even parkruns starting all over the globe now. There's some in America now. There's some in Europe. So you really can do a parkrun anywhere that you are, basically.
And why do people do it?
They do it, I think, firstly for the fitness. People do it firstly for the fitness, and secondly, a big thing is the social aspect. The same people tend to go every week, and it really is a family atmosphere there. It's very supportive. So people will do it to get fit, to feel like they've achieved something, done something on Saturday morning before anyone else. They can go home smug in the knowledge that they're a little bit fitter every week. It's very motivational, and there's a good chat as well. It's a good social life at Parkrun.
Rutland Radio.
Thank you, David. I'm outside Casterton College, Rutland, and I've got Daniel with me. You've picked up your A-levels, haven't you?
Yeah, just picked them up now.
So how are you feeling about them?
Mixed feelings. Quite happy with my maths and physics, but further maths is a bit like...
Gosh, you took further maths?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I was just one paper short on it, so one of the papers just a little bit too low, which is really annoying. So.
Well, I think further maths, well, just maths in general, I think that's hard, let alone further maths as well. So at least you're happy with them. And do you know, are you going to uni?
Yeah, hopefully. I wanted to go to Bath, but obviously I haven't got into there, but I can go to York, been accepted there, so.
Very nice. Well, best of luck then, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, my name's Carl Smith. I'm Principal of Casterton College, Rutland.
So are you proud of your students today?
Absolutely thrilled. Really excellent results. We're delighted with the really good news that we've got today. Lots of students who are in the unis that they want to go to, and I think this is testament to all their hard work, and of course the hard work of the staff.
No, I think, well, I did my A-levels about 4 years ago, and I always thought the jump from GCSE to A-level was really hard. Are those papers getting harder?
I mean, in fact, they actually are. They're getting harder insofar as now coursework is reduced. and it's now all on those final exams, so there's no modular elements to it anymore. So there are some significant differences, and also the way in which the content's presented is such that they're cramming more content in. So it is true that in purely academic terms, they are getting more challenging still, not that they haven't always been hard. So it's great news to see that the students have risen to the challenge.
Do you think it's a bit unfair on those who maybe aren't as academic that want to do A-levels, that it's all based on an exam, maybe if you're not very good in exams, if you get stressed out?
Yes, I do. I think there are some major questions to be asked about the way that national policy has changed things. I think things have perhaps been rushed through a bit. The problem is that post-16 funding has dropped hugely. So consequently, students are having to reach a higher standard, but they're funded, or the school receives far less funding to support them and give them the resources. And there were issues this year with exam boards not having any pilot papers until pretty late in the 2-year course, textbooks not being ready, and people having to scramble around for other resources until quite a way through the courses. So I think that the changes have been hurried, they've been rushed. And I also think that there are questions about the overall effect that they will have on things, yeah.
And also, what advice would you give to students today that, say if they haven't got what they wanted and they might be panicking a bit about their future, then what advice would you give them?
The first thing I'd say is if you've applied to university, always ring them up if you think that there's still a chance they may take you. And make sure that you're flexible. So let's say you applied for economics. Well, there might not be a place in economics, but there might be a place for economics and maths, or economics and finance, or something. So be flexible on that. If that doesn't turn out to be a way forward, then also you've got the option of clearing, and you can go in again. And universities this year have proven to be, we've already seen, quite flexible on the offers they're giving. So they're actually taking people with slightly lower offers. Now, if all that doesn't work out, remember that the world is full of lots of very happy and very successful people who've gone down lots of other routes. And it is by no means the case whatsoever that just not getting the right grades on a particular set of A-levels at a particular moment either means that you're not good at those things, because you probably are, but also that the world has come to an end, because it very, very definitely hasn't.
The weekly Rutland Radio podcast.
I'm at Harrington School with Freya, and you've just picked up your A-level results, so are you happy with them?
Yeah, I'm really happy. I don't think I could have done any better, to be honest.
So how have you done? Can you tell me what your results are?
I got an A-star in biology. Wow. And 2 A's in chemistry and physics.
That's amazing. So you're into your sciences then?
Yeah, big time.
You going to uni?
Yeah, I'm going to University of Leicester to study medicine.
Brilliant. And did you feel like A-levels were really hard?
Yeah, it was definitely a bigger step up from GCSE than I expected. But I guess it's finished now, so
and you can go and celebrate. You're going out celebrating tonight with your friends?
Yeah, I'm going to camp out.
Nice one.
John Harrison, Head of School at Harrington.
Are you proud of your students today then?
Yes, we're incredibly proud of our students. This is our first set of A-level results, and we're really delighted. And I think it reflects the hard work that students like Freya and the rest of our cohort and staff have really put in over the last 2 years.
So how have they done?
Done really, really well. A pass rate of 98%, the vast majority of grades being over A to C, and over 20% of all those grades being at A star and A. We've had some real noticeable achievements. Freya, of course, going off to do medicine, and we've also got 2 other students who are off to Oxbridge, and they attained incredibly well, getting 5 A stars between them.
That's so good. Is that the first time you've ever had any go to Oxford or Cambridge?
Yeah, it's our first results anyway, so it is real history in the making. But we're incredibly proud of all our students. We're really fortunate. Over 100, the vast majority of them are going off to university next year.
News
today people aren't going to university. There are that many people going, but what's it like here?
Yeah, I think we've very much bucked the trend. The vast majority of our students, I think, come here with an aspiration to go to university. And what we got through the system today was that everyone who wanted to go has received an offer, which is brilliant. And many, of course, their first choice offers. There was a lot of smiles this morning and plans for the future.
And has there been a divide between girls and boys in their results?
Not really. We are a little bit skewed this year of having quite a lot of girls compared to boys, but no, very little difference. Some real high performers. Emmanuel, string of A's, and Carl did particularly well as well. So some real good achievements.
Rutland Radio.
So I'm at New College Stamford, and I've got with me, what's your name?
Jasmine Carter.
And?
Ralph Shilcock.
Okay, so are you AS students?
A2.
You're both A2.
Yeah.
So you've done your A-levels now. How are you, Jasmine, we'll start with you. How are you feeling about yours?
Amazing. I mean, so it means that I've been accepted into the integrated masters and I've got a scholarship now. So I'm pretty much set for the next 6 years of my life.
Fantastic. What are you doing? What are you doing for the next 6 years?
I'll be doing maths and then teacher training on with that. So it's a teacher training scholarship.
Wonderful. And Ralph, how about you?
I'm feeling pretty good. I honestly thought that I'd failed law and I didn't, which is good. I got a B. I'm going to Edinburgh. I'm doing Arabic and politics. I love the city. I'm really glad I got on the course because it's pretty hard to get onto, and I'm very pleased.
Wow, well done. Arabic and politics.
Yeah,
that's something quite niche, isn't it?
I haven't even heard of that.
Yeah, there's not many people get onto that one.
So did you find your A-levels hard? Because when I did mine, I thought they were difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they were.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of determination to slog it through, but if you want it, you can achieve it, basically, especially in places like this.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, both of you, for talking to me.
Well, that's it for this week's Rutland Radio podcast. If you have any comments, you can email us via the website, rutlandradio.co.uk, and we'll have a new version on our website from Monday.
This is a download from Rutland Radio. For more information, go to rutlandradio.co.uk.